Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Monte and Wolf Show. I'm dGon alongside Wolf. We just finished week 3 of the LCK. This was supposed to be the week where everything went according to plan. And for the most part here, Wolf, except for 2 series, it did go according to plan. Unfortunately, those 2 series included T1 and KT.
So this is the kind of thing that Monty and I would say in the past, where in past years we'd be like, oh, this is the kind of week where if we're talking about you next week, you're in fucking trouble. Because it's one of those weeks where, like, if everything goes according to plan, it's a really terrible week and it's not that interesting to talk about. If a team that's expected to win loses, you're usually not talking about the team that beat them rising to the occasion. You're usually talking about the team that was supposed to win kind of messing it up. Messing it up.
And I feel like if we were worried about those teams that we're talking about, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've talked enough about T1. Maybe it'd be like a little Hanwha slip up, or maybe a little D+ letdown. But no, it was T1 getting upset by BNK FearX. That was one of them, and then KT dropping to the bros. I was the only one that bet that one. But even then, Wolf, we had a lot of close series, a lot of unnecessary 3 gamers. It's like, hey, if you're going to make us go to 3 games here, underdog team, at least beat them. And many of the time, that did not happen. Saturday Showdown was what the week was supposed to be. GenG beat the fucking shit out of my bros, which was a little sad. And then Hanwha Life beat the shit out of Nongshim. That's how the week was supposed to go. But that's not really at all how it went. And another thing that kind of came up here, Wolf, bathroom breaks. This is the weirdest shit that's been coming up with the LCK. I've never seen cranky Wolf just sitting there back in the chair getting so mad before a game. All of a sudden, we're waiting for 10 minutes. We have no idea why.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this, and I've been like ranting to dGon and the other casters about this, but there's been, I think, 3 pauses due to bathroom breaks, at least 2, but I'm feeling like there was 3, across LCK Cup and LCK so far this season, where a game has begun and then it is paused because a player needs to go to the bathroom. And like, I don't want to sound, I mean, I know I sound like Dad from like the cartoon show is like, I told you to go before we left, but like, if you're a professional player, part of the job is like to go to the bathroom during the break where everyone goes to the bathroom, so that when like literally hundreds of thousands of people around the world are watching your games and 500 people in the arena are watching your games in production with like a bunch of cameras and everything is happening in a live scenario, go, oh wait, hold on, can you guys just wait a second? Can you imagine like the quarterback of an NFL game right before the hike is just like, actually, hold up, I need to go real quick. Can you guys wait for a second? It's not even a fair comparison, because like football is play based, where like, you make a play, you reset, you make a play, you make a reset, you reset, you make a play. League of Legends is like a 30-minute game, and I get it. It's long, it's drawn out. If you feel like, you thought you could hold it, and then you're like, I don't want to have this pause later. I get that. It's good to pause at the beginning of the game, which has been the case for the majority of these pauses. But like, players need to go to the bathroom. This is just insane to me. Like, we're all adults. Go to the bathroom. There's nothing that kills the buzz. There's no bigger buzzkill.
Kill the buzz.
Like, we got the draft. The casters are setting it up. This comp does this. This comp does this. These are the stakes for this important matchup for both of these 2 teams. The fucking zoom-ins are going. The production is ready. We're about to get on the rift. No, shit. Somebody's got to go to the bathroom? Is that what's going on? No, come on.
God damn it, Diabo. He was one of them.
He was one of them. I don't remember who did it yesterday. It's like players I like, too. And I'm like, man, just go to the bathroom, dude. Like, come on.
I think it was Shulu or Lucid. It's these young kids, man. The youngins think that it revolves around them.
I just don't understand, like, why people are not outraged by this also. Like, you guys would be outraged about the most dumb shit. But if somebody just, like, pauses the game to go to the bathroom, you're like, yeah, I had to go. I'm like, you gotta go before. I know people were mad when Keria paused during the finals. That's like the only time I feel like I've ever seen people get mad about a bathroom pause. And that one was kind of that one was kind of like, whoa, this actually could affect the nature of the grand finals to decide who's champion. So like, I'm glad people at least were a little bit like, hey, like we need to probably make sure this doesn't happen again. But yeah, just stop interrupting the show to go pee. All right, like go before the game. That's
Go
all.
before the game.
I had to say it.
I think LCK needs to come down harder.
Needs to be a warning
on
system
them.
or some shit. You know, like come on, at least
Lose
a warning
the
system of
bans.
some kind. Yeah,
Lose the bans. Like you should lose the bans. Like the team should get mad at you. Like come on. What is the management doing? Come on, man.
You're not allowed to talk during the pauses and shit too. By the way, imagine you're talking. You want to set up for level 1. You have no idea the enemy team is about to fucking pause to go to the bathroom. And you're like, all right, we need to go over here, ward. And you're like talking, and then suddenly, like, the pause happens, you have to stop talking. You sit back. It takes 30 seconds to find out that when the ref comes over and says, like, oh, Diablo has to go to the bathroom. So you have to wait. Also, don't speak. And you're just there like, come on, it's not okay. It's not okay.
No.
We cannot make this a thing. This cannot be allowed. That's all.
All right, going from the bathroom basically to the shit, which is known as some of these terrible takes that you guys have in the comments. Let's start here with G-Rap made me do it. And we proved this yesterday, Wolf. Sorry, G-Rap. I appreciate you watching the show, but you'll see later on the other guys are pretty shit. And actually, it's the same guy. Wolf can't seem to comprehend that Fearless brings in new picks because of the fact there's Fearless draft. Teams are practicing more comps and scrims and playing more champs on stage to test them out. If we didn't have Fearless, it would be the same comps over and over like we had for years. Wolf, before
you
hit him here. I know. That's why I had to go fast. From a literal standpoint, he is correct. We are playing with more champs. However, the innovation of new metas and the innovation of new team compositions has stagnated. There are more, but the amount of innovation is the same, if not less, I'd say, because we basically have the same, like, 3 drafts. It's like, okay, this team does this team does this.
There's the Misfortune draft. There's the Kai'Sa draft. Usually there's no Varus draft, because like that one is dead. There's the Ashe archetype where like you got choked out a little bit. And then there's the occasional oh, that's right. Everything is gone and I just picked like a scaling pick like Zeri draft. And it usually doesn't work because it's off meta and it doesn't scale. It has like struggles in the mid game. It doesn't get to its scaling very easily. See Bro's Zeri draft, for example. Although they played that really well, we'll talk about that later. But like the way that Fearless has actually come to be in the LCK is you end up with like so many different types of drafts that end up being the same. I mean, there's so few types of draft that be the same in every series. There's the Ari one, there's the Azir one, and then like. You don't get to be like, oh, I'll leave Ari up, but you can't have this. There's no like strategy around like how Ari could be extremely meta and be played with different drafts, but you try to take the pieces away and stuff like that. Azir also one of those picks that could empower a ton of different AD carries. Like, Kalista works better when she has a scaling mid laner like the Azir. Azir can be great for peel. Like, there's so many things. Like, obviously, Azir is one of those catch-all champions that can give you other ways to play, like Azir, Renekton. Like if you're Morgan, you want to play Renekton, but you had the Azir, you could do something there. But once the Azir just gets blinded in one of the first games it's available, you never get to do anything like that ever again. And you're like, oh well, I don't know. Like, do we have to play Victor now because we need scaling damage? And so like I feel like almost every draft I've cast since week 2.5 ish. You almost know exactly what's going to happen every single time because there's always an optimal choice with the champions that are left available. And there's just not that many champions left available going into like a game 3. We predicted, me and Wadid on the desk, like which champs would be, or like what champs we were looking out for. And then like 5 of the 6 champs we predicted were in the next draft.
It was Yone, Maokai, Zeri, Silas. blank, and then Ivern was the one that didn't get picked because they already picked Maokai.
And also their comp couldn't play with Ivern, so it just didn't make sense to pick Ivern there. So like, that was like it. Like, I don't know. For me, I get you guys like Fearless. I don't think you really understand it, but I get you like it, and that's fine, and it's cool, and we're doing it. So like, I'm over it, but it hasn't led to like the things that people have wildly claimed that it's going to have. Like, I just don't. Yes. I think champion diversity is not better. It's just straight up not.
We are. It's not creating creativity. It's creating.
It actually limits you. It actually limits drafts. It limits drafts.
It limits draft. It's a little DIE, right? It's like forced. You have to pick new champions. You have to do it, but the way that you do it is not the same. Is not creative. No one other than Nongshim, like we've seen Kingen fall flat on his face multiple times now with these ass picks, but he's trying. He is trying.
That's why people aren't doing other weird picks, because they watch him try.
Yeah. So again, because you are forced to do it, teams are doing it, but they're not being creative with it. That's the point. And yes, if we did not have Fearless, because we have bad teams, we would see more Corki Azir, 100%. But now, we would see more Corki Azir, but then it prevents us from seeing one side pick Azir and then all of a sudden a completely different comp that counters what is coming. Yeah. Right? They're not doing that. It's too risky. It's too volatile.
Yeah. It's weird too, because you end up with drafts where you're like, okay, they took Rel in game 1, partially because they needed to engage, but partially because they know you're an MF team, and now you don't have Rel for game 2 because you didn't pick MF in this draft. And then the team wants to run like MF, but they don't have the Rel anymore, and then they're like, oh god, we don't really have setup for this. And then you have these games where like an MF does like 3,000 damage in a 30-minute game because there's no setup. And like, I'm not saying you need Rel to play Misfortune. There's a lot more to Misfortune than that. There's obviously her lane power. There's her somewhat good anti-dive setups where like, she just does a ton of damage while you dive on her and she dies, but then you have a mid laner that does a lot of damage, or a top laner that does a lot of damage, cleans up. There's other things, right? I'm not saying Misfortune can't be played without Rel, but there's moments like that where you watch a draft and you go, oh, well, these pieces are missing for what they want to do, but too fucking bad, so they can't play these other champs. And the meta is dictated by which champions are the strongest and most consistent at any given point. So sure, you can play Anivia top, or you could try to play Aphelios in this meta if you want, but your players aren't going to be practicing it that much. People make these wild claims like, well, of course they're scrimming all sorts of crazy shit that you don't know about. I'm like, yeah, maybe a little bit, but until it comes out into the Rift, until we see teams consistently use it, like Zeus used it in LCK Cup where he's playing Olaf and shit like that. I mean, that's where I'm like, yeah, if you tell me that's where Fearless is happening, I'm like, I see it right there. I'm 100% with you. In those specific niche cases with players like Zeus, players like Kingen, yeah, I can see it 100%. But in 95% of the rest of the LCK, it just feels like Fearless is limiting. I'm not saying like we need to get the old way back. It's never coming back. So, people will even forget what the old way was like at some point. But I don't like these wild claims that like it's just suddenly everything is fixed now. It's not.
It's not. Maybe like let's see when we get to playoffs, because that's where we got to see a lot of the cooking by Hanwha Life, by Nongshim, by D+. Actually, D+ cooked less in LCK Cup playoffs.
Yeah, that was
they
weird.
Cooked more during the regular season. They did the inverse. But so far, you get similar comp versus similar comp. It's the same pool of 8 champions getting played or banned. This one, a good take, I think, against shit takes. D. Felder, I've seen him before, says, why would you ever, about Team 1 and Guma, why would you ever give one of your brand players to another team? Guys, we talk every year about league dying and viewership issues. Then we hear stories about 40-year-olds trapping these guys into contract jail, losing their prime. Okay, maybe this isn't a great take. Cloud9 took maybe the best Western AD carry Sven and took his prime away. Okay. And then he counters his argument right here. Yes, Berserker was better, but if you already have your guy, fucking let the other guy go. Especially if you can use these loan things, loan them to another team. You are sacking the competition and health of the league because you made a decision, then that decision changed. If it changed, let the player change as well. But I'm sure Guma doesn't want to play on another team. So couple things there. One, Sven, best Western AD carry. Two, he's talking about the health of the league. And three, ignoring the competitive advantage you have by having more money and signing two players that are great, including role swapping one of them into another role.
Yeah, I think that example is just not. It's not a example that you can apply everywhere. Like, think about T1's perspective, right? Like, they already, I think I want to say either made a statement or it came out recently, like maybe in the last month or two, that like they weren't profitable. Which like then everyone was like going like, see, everyone says T1's profitable, but they're not profitable, or whatever. The truth is, like, T1 has an incredibly expensive plan for winning the LCK and winning Worlds, right? Like, they have a very expensive roster that has insane brand value. They have extremely great and talented coaching staff. We've talked about this a ton. They have a very expensive team house. I've been there. Like, the team house is very, very nice, as are most of our team houses. It's like an elite setup. It's very expensive. You want to build your players. You committed to Gumayusi for another year, and then the coaching staff is like, this isn't working out. You have a cheaper challengers alternative, but you spent all this money on Guma's salary. You spent all this money on trying to set this up. You tried to get Zeus, you failed, but you otherwise spent a ton of money because you wanted 5 players together. You decided this was not a year. You're going to break everybody up and keep Faker and just blow it up and try again. So you spent a lot more money than maybe you wanted to spend on Guma because you wanted to keep that. You kept Keria. Rumor has it Keria was maybe going to go to Hanwha Life Esports. Like, think about all these things all at once, right? And then Guma isn't working out. It's not working. He's not winning. They sub Smash in, who's on an extremely low salary, you have to imagine, because he's a Challengers player, comparatively. I'm not saying, I mean, he's probably one of the higher paid Challengers players. I don't think he's on minimum salary. He's very talented. He played with Reckless, etc. He's got his own brand value. But anyway, why would you loan Guma in any scenario when you've already committed so much money and so much into this, to then create more drama, to then to take him out of your brand, do all these things? How much money would you have to charge for that to be worth it? No team can pay that. No team can pay what it is worth for T1 to send him. So from T1's perspective, economically, it doesn't make any sense for this guy to be loaned to anybody unless it's like tons of money paid. So like if a team made an offer like, hey, I will give you like, if I can use him for 2 rounds, I'll give you, I don't know, 500 grand or something. T1 might not even say yes to that. I don't know. I don't know what the bar they're setting is, but like, teams just don't have that kind of money to pay an entire extra player's salary to rent a player they can't even use when they play against T1, who doesn't have any synergy with your roster, doesn't have brand value for your team necessarily because he's got a T1 legacy with his brother, innovation, etc. Like, I just don't see why it would ever make sense for T1 to do that. I think people don't realize this, and they say, well, the health of the league is in question because a player like Gumayusi is sitting on the bench. But he will make his own decisions at the end of the year. We said this on many other episodes, but like, that's sports, guys. Like, players get benched. Famous players get benched. And it sucks that you can't watch him, and it sucks that he's rotting away, as you say, and he's not playing in scrims, which is to a certain extent true. We have some data that backs up he isn't playing in a lot of scrims. That is just how it's going to be. He has to earn his way back on T1. He's got a year to do that. If he doesn't, he can go wherever he wants, right? Like, that's his choice ultimately. And the league isn't going to die because Guma's on the bench. If it is, then the league has got much bigger problems.
Did I use this analogy last week? I feel like I've been talking about this a while, but the Green Bay Packers, right? A well-known NFL team, American football team, had Brett Favre, Hall of Fame quarterback, gunslinger, popped off from the mouth, kind of, cocky. He was one of the engines of the team, if not, I mean, more specifically, he's the heart of the team. Franchise team. This is original organization that carries NFL. They then draft this new quarterback named Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers sits behind him for a couple years. And then eventually they're like, hey, man, we're going to give Aaron Rodgers a go. fans outraged. Ownership, they're letting the management do what they're supposed to do, but outraged. And then eventually he leaves. He goes to the Jets. But wait, not done yet. Green Bay Packers, like 3 years ago. Aaron Rodgers, that same guy that replaced Brett Favre. They draft multiple different quarterbacks. This time they draft a guy named Jordan Love. Same kind of thing. Contract time, whatever. He gets a little banged up. Hey, we're going to go with Jordan in the future. It would be great if you were a mentor and blah, blah. Instead, he sits on the bench, talks a lot of shit, blah, blah, blah. Goes to play for the New York Jets as well. Kind of weird that they ended up at the same team, both Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. But it is a thing where you have this franchise player who is aging, who maybe is butting heads with management, new management. Again, Roach is gone. Mata joins. Whatever you think about those coaching staff, it is a new one. And at the end of the day, who do you stick with? Do you stick with the player or do you stick with the management? And it seems like T1 already has a player that they stick with in Faker, just in case you didn't know that. So there is precedent here in sports. And in my analogy, I'm talking about the Faker level guy, not the Guma level guy who is great. He is a great player when he's playing his best, but he is not Faker. He's not Faker. And so I think that shows that sports does have this. And the way that you handle it can be a multitude of ways. You could be like, yeah, I'm going to be a good teammate for the rest of the year, and then I'm going to go get paid and beat the shit out of you every year. It could be, I'm going to throw a fit, and I'm not going to do that. It could be any. I'm going to leave. I think Derek Carr left the Raiders 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he was the lead quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. Used to be the Oakland Raiders. And they were like, hey, we're going to go with our younger guy, see what he got. He said, hey, that's totally fine. My mental health is in the gutter. It would be great if I could just be away from team activities and reset. And they said, we wish you well. He ends up leaving the team at the end of next year. He signs with the New Orleans Saints, and it's been kind of a bust. So it doesn't, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. The multiple different routes that you can take is do it, but the situation is here. Smash is getting opportunities, whether he should or not, especially after this week. Wolf and I will talk about it. But he is getting the opportunities because he is a talented player. We have seen the talent. Is he playing to that level? Is Guma playing to that level? No. But at the end of the day, the coaching staff is going to make that decision. And as long as they are trying to do what's best for T1, they are within their job. That is the thing. Yeah. And so if that means keeping Guma, that's helpful. If it means letting him go, if that means removing him from team activities because he's sapping energy or good vibes from it, that too. We don't know. We don't know.
But what we like, all we know are like the things that have been leaked, the things that have come out, like the things that we can talk about are the things that we've seen, like the Discord messages and things like that. I'm not even that interested in talking about that, but like, what I'm really saying is we could talk about that stuff. We could see that stuff, but what we can also see with our eyes is what is happening in the game on the Rift. And that's what we're about to talk about. Because
into BNK FearX. This, I mean, I think I had T1 number 2, maybe number 3, probably number 3. Sorry, I had T1 third in my power rankings. I had BNK FearX last. Yeah. So that's maybe not the ranking they came in with, but that is, the idea of the teams that we came in with. And BNK FearX punched T1 in the mouth. They get 2 games in. The substitute from Smash to Guma. This series had it all. Raptor clear, playing well. Had it all, man.
I was impressed that I felt in my circles and the things I saw on Twitter and some of the Reddit thread that I allowed myself to read because I generally don't try to read that vitriol. I did feel pretty impressed that most people watch the series were able to identify that Doran was the biggest issue in this best of 3. Because Doran counterpicked in game 1, he picked the Gragas. he counterpicked the Gragas and like got kind of crushed. Like his landing phase was rough. Like it turned around later on. The game did bounce back, but he had a roughie there. Then he got solo killed in game 2 when they left open. This was a draft issue, but it was also a Doran issue. Like you're supposed to kind of struggle as Gwen in the early levels against Jace because ranged versus melee, as we talk about all the time. But like you're not supposed to die. Not supposed to miscalculate that badly. It was a good play from Clear, but also Doran kind of messed it up. T1 drafted Ezreal into Varus. Teams keep doing this. I don't fully understand why this is like teams have decided this is a good idea. And so like the first 2 games for me, I was just like, T1 looks out of sorts. Like I don't know what's going on in the backstage. I don't know what's going on in the coaches' notebooks and like the discussion that's happening there. But there's been a few drafts too where you see the players on their faces. Like Kerry also playing Rakan in that game. Like he had some fantastic moments. Like he's super good at Rakan, and like I think T1 is overall like the smarter and better macro team and like better like team fighting team, etc. Like they are the stronger roster. Like don't get me wrong. I mean it's Kerry and Kellen. Like when you think about that matchup, you're like, well, we know who we favor. But like they drafted him Rakan in that draft, and I'm like, you could see somebody's in those moments where like they're drafting it. You look at Kerry's face; they're kind of like, we didn't have a plan for this. Like, what should we do now? What are we locking in? Which I feel like in the past for T1, in some of their worst years, was like how it was going. In their best times, it's usually like every single pick, you're like, holy fuck, that's the perfect angle for this weird pick they're going to play in the bottom lane. Or like, oh, Faker's got this new one. We've never seen this before, but holy shit, it makes total sense when you think about how it works with the draft. That kind of stuff. These drafts feel like T1 is just kind of fumbling through it and being like, well, it's BNK, it'll be fine. Like, don't worry about it. Just pick Lock Rakan here. Like, oh yeah, it's we gave Varus, but we wanted to ban some other stuff. I didn't want to give over the Jace in this game, so like we'll just play Ezreal into it. Like you're good at Ezreal Smash, it'll be fine, man. It's Diablo. Come on, you beat that guy in Challenger before. Not actually that much, to be honest. Then you look at the game 3. Game 3 was the game that was like, I didn't like Yorick, to be honest. Nobody does. Like Doran went 0-5 on the pick. I don't like Yorick very much at all right now. Nobody really does, frankly. I don't know why this pick is like it's doing well on scrims or something, but in the LCK it looks terrible. And then Owner's playing Lee Sin, which are like, okay, jungle pool's thinned out. Owner's a great Lee Sin player. I'm sure he'll be fine. He's the most fucking stable person on this team who's not inting almost ever. Although I think even he is starting to be like, I can't do everything. And then the Jinx Lulu lane into the Alistar, I was like, okay, hold on, that's correct. Like that's the T1 I was talking about earlier. Well, I'm like, oh yeah, this all makes sense. You're playing into Alistar. You have a champion that outranges your enemy AD carry, and you have a ranged support that can poke out the Alistar. And they try to push it too far. They didn't respect the Hex Flash. They didn't respect Kellen. And T1 just didn't respect BNK in the series and draft and in general at all, it felt like. And Guma came in, and he and Keria got booty blasted by fucking Kellen.
Yeah.
Like Kellen rocked them, okay?
This wasn't a Diablo diff, it was a Kellen diff on Alistar. It just okay, so for those of you who didn't watch it, they get too close, Kellen trades flash for flash on Guma. Okay, he flashes away, maybe shouldn't be that close, but whatever, that's part of the issue. But then he's so focused on pushing the wave in and getting a good reset that he just stands within range of Kellen's Hex Flash. Like, you can't do that. I guess you got to check the runes and make sure that he has Hex Flash, which I don't know why he wouldn't have Hex Flash, but you just can't do that. And that was so game breaking. It was so game breaking.
Well, it's just one of the only places on the map where you actually had a lane that like is basically impossible to lose. You know what I mean? Like York, he's gonna throw shit at a Scion and like he'll get some prio up there, whatever. He's not gonna come team fight. You have the Victor into the Ahri. that can go both ways depending on how well you play it. Faker hasn't had amazing laning phases, but his Victor's been pretty good, and like that's fine. That's not broken. Lee Sin can patch a lot of holes. Like he can come over. He can put the more pressure on the bottom lane as well that you're supposed to be winning. But then if you're losing it randomly, like owner's like, oh shit, man, I'm playing with a Victor on Lee Sin. That's not the greatest setup for Lee Sin, so I don't have that much agency there. And then top lane, it's like that's Sion, by the way. So I kind of need to play through bottom a little bit more. Try to play through that Dragon Prio. That all falls apart when your lane that you're supposed to win, like no matter what, just is in shambles. And with the Yorick in your comp, like you need to team fight with a Jinx that's like at least not behind, so that you can win team fights with her scaling front to back, get a pick. She goes into hyper carry mode because she gets a reset and starts getting excited, and that's like Faker helps clean up. Because you don't really have a traditional engaged top laner. Like your top laner doesn't have any way to really get on top of things. It's Yorick. He doesn't want a team fight. Owner
get in my donut.
Like Lee Sin engage is not the same as like Xin Zhao engage, because when you go in, you're kind of like, are we winning because I went in, or did I have the perfect kick angle, or I'm dead, by the way. There is no like, oh, I pressed R because I'm Xin Zhao, and like we have a little wiggle room here. So like the whole comp really falls apart if Guma and Keria lose the unlosable lane. Like that's the thing that, like, for me, the series was more about Doran in general, because I think if Doran played better in game 2, then like there's actually a game there for T1. But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And like in game 1, I think T1 would have had a much more comfortable game if he actually played the counter pick better and didn't give Clear a ton of opportunity on the Jax. But in game 3, clearly, Guma underperformed, And I think he's under a ton of pressure. Obviously, we've been talking about this for fucking feels like 5 years, but it's actually just been like a month of discussing this. But like, it's immense pressure that he's under, and like you could see him on the camera. You could see when he walked out on stage, people were screaming and losing their minds so crazily that like LoLEsports staff had to tell people to sit down and calm down. And like he was doing the like pose, and he was giving them the grin and doing this thing and all that. And like
winked.
Then he winked, but then I think he was like, I'm back, baby, and then just was too back. You know what I mean? Like he
I'm filled with football references this week. In Friday Night Lights, the star running back goes out injured with a knee injury, but he refuses to accept it's a knee injury, even though doctors say it was a knee injury. He goes back in the game, and the first play, he like completely tears his knee and like ruins his life. That's kind of what it felt like. You want to win? Let Booby spin. And then Booby could not play the game. And so in this case, Guma messed up the same area that he was criticized for before, which is the early game of the laning phase. And the issue, the reason why that's an issue, even though you were going hard on Thorin, like in game 1 on Gragas, he did not die. And his laning, he was down maybe like 15, 20 CS, but eventually he came back on into it. It's playable.
He did come back.
He did. But Doran was clearly the issue in game 2 and game 3. I agree. Most of the blame should go on to Doran. I mean, yes. But with Guma, it's the same problem. Like, if you freeze frame on the moment where Alistar engages on him the second time, Keria is out of mana. Keria's and sitting in middle bush. Kellen is in his side bush. It's not like Keria's sitting there saying, hey, man, and saying nothing. He's clearly said, hey, I don't have mana. Like, be careful. Could be this. He said something, and it's just off. And now the game is different. And then they come back down. They kill him again because he doesn't have flash. Like, the game state alters from normal procedures when laning phase goes bad. When laning phase goes bad. And that's the part that you can coach and control the most. And I saw Dom have a good response to this, which was, this is the thing you can practice in solo queue the most, because this is the thing that happens in solo queue. Laning happens in solo queue. That's what happens in solo queue. Like map rotations, macro, lane swap, when to change sides, when to group. Like that requires coaching and everyone being on the same same page.
Yes.
But laning happens in solo queue.
Knowing Alistar's engage range with Hex Flash is something that is one of the earliest things you'll learn if you're a bottom laner, whether you're a support or an AD carry. And I do agree with Dom's take on that, and it's a take that Ox has had as well. And the lack of scrim time may impact the way that you communicate with your bottom laner in some aspects, right? But normally, if you have a massive meta change during that time, or if and you're playing duos that are unusual, or if you are or if you haven't been playing with that player for a really long time, I'm talking 3 months of no scrims, but we're talking about Jinx Lulu. I think Gumakeria played that together a lot. I think every bottom laner has played Jinx Lulu a lot, and with their support and with multiple supports across their career. And I think most people are happy to, because of the Alistar, pick Jinx Lulu and are therefore familiar with the ways that you can push it.
One more last part is, if it's not based off of this game for Guma specifically, based off what you saw from the team and Smash, and again, we don't know the scrim results, who are you starting next week? I know who I'm starting.
I mean, I think I probably start Smash.
I start Smash.
Yeah.
I start Smash because the whole point out of all of this is to get more games for Smash.
Yeah.
However, I think I saw a comment earlier saying, in these easier games that are surefire wins, why don't you play Guma? Well, it's because the team isn't good enough to have surefire wins against mid-table teams right now, which we thought BNK FearX was a bottom-table team, but there was no surefire wins. Also, if you were the fan that came at me and said, they're never going to put Guma back in, the coaching staff are intentionally trying to int Guma, that's not the case either, clearly.
Why would they ever do that? Why would anyone ever do that?
I don't know, but then I found one of those guys. I talked to him and said, hey, look, they clearly put him back in. And they're like, yeah, but he's basically bench forever. It's like, no, don't move the goalposts. Don't move the goalposts. If they are intentionally trying to ruin Guma, they would not play him anymore. But they are literally trying to do what's best for T1. Sometimes that includes Guma. Sometimes that includes Smash at the cost of Guma. That's it.
I just don't understand why there would be any benefit to anyone to trying to intentionally ruin Guma. Literally, who wins? I mean, everything we just talked about, or I ranted about earlier about how important it is for Guma to be on T1 and why they won't ever loan him. Why would they ruin one of their most famous, insanely strong and talented parts of their famed roster? They lost Zeus already. Why would they ruin Guma? They're just trying to figure out how to win, obviously, because this is not a K-pop group. It's a fucking sports team.
Yeah, but look at these stories we've had cook up from T1. 2021 10-man roster. 2022 normal year, actually. They made it to the World Finals. They were the antagonist in DRX's I guess Cinderella story. 2023 Faker injury, coach drama, Bengi left. 2024 DDoS situation, more Faker injuries. 2025. Who are we still talking about? Are we talking about DRX? Well, I mean, we will later, but the segment's called DRX sucks. We're still talking about T1. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, DRX. I love DRX.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, because T1 has solved so many issues in the past. And this iteration of T1 and this coaching staff, right, as well, and this roster has seen so many different types of hardships. So, one way or the other, they will find their way out of this. And Chronica made the tweet. It was really funny. That it's going to be crazy when T1 wins Worlds after all this. I don't know exactly what he said, but something along those lines, because we have had so many years where T1 just looked like it's doomed. They're 5th, 6th place, and then Faker's injured and Poby is playing, and it's is there any way out? And then boom, World Championship, and that's why, like, if you're a T1 fan and not a Guma fan, you probably shouldn't panic. You know, you probably should be okay. If you're a Guma fan, you got to wish him well and hope that he is able to figure out the best way to get back on that starting lineup. Because ultimately, it's not up to him and it's not up to you. Like, he doesn't deserve to start because you want him to or because he's more famous than Smash.
Yeah,
I know that concept is hard for some people, but like, it's a sports team. So please
Wolf
just
sounds like
let
a
it
crazy
end.
man.
Drama.
He
Please
sounds like
just
the crazy man.
drama.
It's a sports team. Why can't they understand?
I'm just like, I'm burnt out on this, man. I'm actually tired of it. Like, it's just
All
not
right.
even interesting anymore. Like, to me,
Well,
I mean, I get that to most people it is, but like, to me, I'm just like, okay, yes, 280 carries are fighting for the same spot. Guess where else that's happening? KT Roaster? Just like across the street, the other telecom company? It's the same thing. But because, you know, Poduk and well, Ducktom in particular is not as, you know, legendary of a player as Guma, no one's even mentioning it. The KT fans aren't fighting each other over, like, Ducktom was our guy, because he's not the guy. If it was Deft, maybe. If it was Deft, I guarantee you there'd be a lot more discussion about it. Because Deft's been a historical player on KT Roaster, obviously has a world championship title, has multiple titles, as a pro in domestic leagues. But like, it is just like, what is happening with Smash and Guma in terms of sports, in terms of building a roster and trying to make a championship team, is exactly the same thing that's happened right over there on the other telecom team, right on your sister telecom team over there, Korea Telecom, Rollster. Okay. Poduk and Duckdom. Same thing.
yeah,
Wow.
there's that was pretty good. Don't forget, also with the Giga Chads. Do you want the bulldozer with Bull? Do you want the headhunter with hype? My God, I'm such a hype guy or a bull guy. I don't know. Actually, I'm a bull guy because Bull deserves it. Did you see how hard he flexed after he won? He's 1-0. Look at all the games Hype's lost. It's the same thing. This is good. That was a really good analogy. I think it's better than my Booby Miles one, man. All right. It's time to remind you guys about one of the supporters that powers Monte Wolf. It's our friends over at Turtle Beach. Bam. Remember the feeling of booting up your favorite game for the first time, the late night sessions, the epic wins, the sound of the lobby filling up with friends. Gaming wasn't just something you did, it was a whole experience, and the right headset makes all the difference. Turtle Beach is bringing back that feeling with the Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset. It's like stepping into the golden age of gaming all over again. Only this time, the audio's richer, the surround sound is more immersive, and you can hear Wolf yelling at you like he's in the same room. No more crackly mics, no more missed callouts, just pure uninterrupted gaming. Exactly the way that you remember it, but better. And for a limited time, get 10% off your entire order using the code MonteWolf at turtlebeach.com. Don't miss out. Stay warm and level up your game with 10% off at turtlebeach.com using the code Monte Wolf. They've got a ton of different products as well. That is part of that 10% off promo code with keyboards, mice, the racing accessories, and a whole bunch of other things. Head on over to turtlebeach.com using the code Monte Wolf for 10% off your entire order. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. Oh, baby. Okay, this is the last thing. Well, don't go crazy. I need a short answer here. Is there something that T1 will do that will top this week? Because I think putting Guma back in was the only thing that could have topped the week before.
Let me check
now,
schedule.
I don't think there's anything.
I had the schedule open and I already forgot two teams.
They play T+.
One of them is DNF, right? Oh no, that's the following week. So they play T1 play Bro and D+, yeah.
Oh. I don't think there's anything that happens. Like, maybe if they go 0-2, but even then, like, that's not. I don't think it's about how it would happen, right? Like, it would be.
Yeah.
There's nothing that how they do it that would change, be bigger than this week.
Well, I mean, I think the only way to top like this week in terms of individual things that could happen, like not not some sort of crazy overarching drama like it leaked that, you know, like that I don't know, Karya and Guma are fighting because like some DMs got shown where they were yelling at each other. Like that would top this week, obviously, right? But like
sure.
Something like crazy like that, but something like gameplay related wise, like I feel like the only thing that would get people mad / hype would be the funny fan suggestion that Guma should be subbed in for Doran. That was a bit of a meme that was going around, and it was very funny. Unless you're Doran, in which case it probably wasn't very funny. But Doran, you know, when Doran got blasted, by the way, just saying, going back to the other thing, like Doran also got kind of wrecked. He looked dead inside. Like he looked like he let his team down. You could see on his face he was like, "This was my fault. I messed this up." I can hear him talking to his teammates. You know, I didn't see it, but like I can very easily imagine it in my mind's eye. Doran apologizing back in the back room for like a really bad laning phase and a really rough series overall. Because when I saw him on the player cam, he looked like he was internally beating himself up. That's not necessarily healthy, but like you could tell he really felt bad, and I feel bad for him too. But at least, you know, there was a very clear acknowledgement in Doran's facial expression that he had a bad one. So I think he's probably going to try to spend the off time leveling up, and I hope he does, because Shio is pretty good, and that's a tough one. I'm pretty sure I predicted D+ for that series as well with how Team 1 is looking.
Yeah. We'll do predictions later as well. Who does feel pretty dead inside? That's a pretty good transition. It's anyone. It's Berserker and anyone on DN Freecs. I'm not gonna say Berserker's suffering is bigger than everyone else's. However, my God, if you haven't gone and watched KT DNF game 1, that was the fiesta of the year, and not in like the GenG versus T1 like kind of fiesta where like we're celebrating how great they are. In this game, we were celebrating the return of Nexus's respawning and how pro players forget that. This one went super late. Berserker gets drafted Xayah because Wolf and I believe that he just can't trust his team anymore. So he has his own bailout button. Never got hit by the
solo queue pick, man. He was like, I don't know these guys. They have a pretty aggressive draft. I should probably pick Xayah. It seems safe.
The DN Freecs are one of like 2 teams in the world, I think, that haven't won a match yet. Them and Disguised over at it's them in Disguise that haven't won a match yet. It's kind of brutal over in LTA, because who was it? LNG won their series last. I think it was a couple days ago. They made a substitution. They won a series over in the LPL. I think there was one. I think it was one of the Australian teams that hadn't got a win yet, but I think Chiefs did get a win. I'm looking. Maybe it's Chiefs. I think it's those 3 teams. It's kind of brutal. So the DN Freecs still kind of looking for their first thing. One of the worst teams in the world. They look so damn dysfunctional. They have so much experience on the team. They have ex MVPs, ex world champions. Dudu and Life have played for such a long time. Bulldog, promising young rookie. We talked about it last week, Wolf, but it's a new low. It's a new low. KT was supposed to be the win.
I think, like, obviously these are 5 Korean LCK level players, right? So the lane phases are not a disaster. You know, Bulldog is not getting like solo killed twice every game or something like that. You know, you're seeing Dudu make sometimes bizarre decisions in lane, but he's not getting like completely wrecked every game like he was in other seasons past, like last year, where he just was, I don't know, he was having a rough time. And then like Life is doing okay in lane, you know, in the 2v2, like it's fine. Outside of that, I don't really want to talk about it too much. But I don't think anyone really wants to talk about it or watch it that much. But it's like in lane, and actually Cloud Temple had a really similar take. Someone translated for me and sent me a clip of like what Cloud Templar said about the match on his stream after he went home, and he was talking about how like DN Freecs actually have a really strong laning phase. He's like, that's the part where like they're fine, they don't fuck it up. And he and I are mind linked, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday on the desk. Like, it's what happens after that on objectives and setup, and like going to dragon or grubs or making the call to like push to end or not. Like those types of decisions. It looks like solo queue, and like, excuse me. I think everyone's had that game in low level league where you wipe the enemy team and you're trying to go end, and the half your team just goes and does Baron, and you're like, I want to end. I want to push. I want to end this game. But like I can't because my team won't listen to me. They're doing Baron. So if you go by yourself to try to end, like they have that guy's respawning in 10 seconds, he's going to kill you because he's super fed. You can't kill the open Nexus, but your team is so dumb that they want to go do Baron. Like that's what like I'm watching some decisions that feel like that, where it's like the team doesn't have a shot calling voice. And so like someone eventually makes a call and everyone just follows that call. But it doesn't feel like there's any pre-planning. The Baron call against KT was so bizarre because yeah, I get it. They were super frustrated that like they weren't able to end, and the Nexus was practically open, like effectively open. If you get Baron buff and you push with the extreme scaling elements of their comp, you probably just win. And like I get that aspect of it, but the fact that their Nexus was also open and Galio had TP, like Galio was respawning in like his timer was like 32 seconds or something pretty long when they ended up trying to start the Baron. The problem is that like when you're all there and KT knows it, you can't back and you can't kill them fast enough. And then they made that decision. I think every person who's been watching League for a really long time, or watching the LCK at least, knew the game was done. Because Galio will respawn and end the game. And no one can stop him, no one can get back to stop him.
Yep.
It's decisions like that that like if you have the experience that these players have, like even Bulldog at this point, you know, he has a lot of experience. Like if you have the experience that these players have, you probably don't make that call. It sucks because you have to like reset and hope for a good fight and like go clear your base out, and you're like basically had won the game already, but now it's actually playable for KT again, and you got to clear the waves and wait for your inhibitors to respawn, and then go fight for vision on Baron again. It's very like it's a very frustrating game state. But like if you just leave your base open and no one's communicating, like, hey Bullet, can you clear that? We'll try to Baron. If they come, we'll peel off. Like something like that. You could have done something like that, but if you can't communicate that, then you just auto lose to a team like that has BDD on it, and the shot calling is clean. It's go to Baron, deny. When you respawn, casting TP to end. That's exactly what happened. There was not even a second of hesitation where guys was like, wait, hold on, can I end? Like, hold on, do you guys winning that fight? He was like, I don't care if you guys win the fight because they can't back. I'm ending the game. And I think the shot calling just isn't there. The coordination isn't there. And I don't know why that is, you know? I just don't. In an LCK Cup, it was definitely way more there than it is now. Like, how does that happen? How do you de-synergize over time? That's so almost unheard of.
I just wonder if they just need a young who has young energy. I mean, we covered the ages of the players last week, Dudu and Life being the oldest. But do they have young energy? Because I know that, you know, we know that Pioshik is playful and has a lot of personality. For those of you that don't know, Berserker is a Giga Chad. He is like, and he's got good personality. But just we were able to hear the comms of the D+ game yesterday as well, when they were stacking up they almost stacked up the pentas for aiming, and you could still hear Beryl being like, guys, we got to go to dragon. And we know Beryl to be the crazy pick guy. We know Beryl, you know, he has his own verb barreling. He's Max's favorite player, but he still brings that aura of, now's not the time to be dicking around, and I know how to get us to victory. And I think that was what Life was supposed to be. And maybe when his own plays started deteriorating, naturally, again, this is all conjecture, naturally, you lose confidence in the macro calls because you're not functioning micro, and you have a player here who, for better or for worse, isn't dying with you. and make, you look bad subsequently. You wonder if that's part of it, but I just feel like if you're gonna build around this young nucleus, you need a young that has young energy. And I wonder, as these players get older, will they develop that, or is this just talent that is going to go and depart? Like you those kind of players are rare. Those kind of voices are rare. Peanut is that guy. Faker is that guy. Barrel is that guy. I'm starting to wonder if BDD was that guy, because it feels like KT is kind of struggling to figure out who that person is. But it is the leader of men. The leader of men. Who is that person on the team? And can they do that? Can they be that? And that, I just feel like that's what's lacking here for our last team to get a win in the LCK.
I just want to give Life. His team is constantly losing, and he's playing support, right? So he's often playing picks like Leona, where mobility, you're not railing over the wall to get out. You know what I mean? Like if you're out there trying to clear a ward, and you don't have flash, you die every time. You're Leona. He has the highest deaths in the LCK, but I think in part, some of the decisions he's made has led to some really disastrous situations, but he is always having to clear vision. He is always face checking because his team has no control, no vision setup. And they were doing good vision setup in LCK Cup, which is what's mind-boggling to me. To put this into perspective, DN Freecs have played some of the fewest games because they've been 2-0'd by basically everybody. He has 71 deaths. Delight has 40 deaths. Keria has 45 deaths. Barrel, 47. Kellen is the one who's closest to him at 67. Because, it's Kellen has also been struggling a lot this year and has been playing similar picks and stuff like that. It's actually really impressive that Kellen is as close to Life as he is, but I think it's I was really hard on Life early in the season because I was like, man, this guy just keeps dying by himself. Or he keeps dying trying to go in, but his team is always losing and his team is not making decisions. So it looks like he is trying to make the decision to go in a lot of the time, and then there isn't follow up, or his team isn't there fast enough. He's outpaced his team sometimes, and it is still incorrect to make the calls he's making. But I almost feel like I'll let it slide. You know what I mean? With just the whole state of this team right now. I don't know how they're going to fix it. Pyosik seems like, to me, he's the one who should be the young on this roster. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be Berserker, who's still really young and hasn't seen the international success that Pyosik has had. It could be Dudu, but it probably shouldn't be because he's the top laner. Even if you have the guy who has the young energy like Khan on your team, that team had Barrel on it also. You know what I mean? That team had there were other pieces of that roster where you're okay, well, obviously, Khan has young energy, but he doesn't actually have to be the one who's making the calls as a top laner everywhere else on the map and in terms of engage and stuff like that. So Bulldog isn't a Hyung because he's also relatively new player and hasn't found success or stability, frankly. So it kind of has to be Pyosik, right? I feel Pyosik has to channel some Peanut energy. Or it has to be Life, right? And maybe Life is the one who's trying to do it right now and it isn't working, but it's hard to coach this if you get 5 players that can't figure it out. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't just tell, we figured this out with D+. You can't just tell Kellen, you're the shot caller, say the things, it'll be fine. Because it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. D+ had this problem for so long with a really good coaching staff and great, fantastic players, and they couldn't solve the problem. And then this is just it feels like a slightly one tier down, same problem. But that one tier of difference between the caliber of players between D+'s struggles with lack of shot caller and then this lineup of lack of shot caller means you're on track for an 09er, as I've been calling it. You might go winless round robin.
And then they play BRO, so there's a chance. There's a chance they go 1-9. There'll be a 1-9er.
Right now, I would predict Bro against them.
Yeah, I would too, but that would be their best shot. No, I love my bros, but keep it real.
It's hard to talk about this team without knowing the real dynamics of like how they shot call and what's happening and what Rapid Star is trying to do, and what Fantasy is trying to do. Fantasy is part of this roster as well, because I there are not really any positives outside of like they can walk up to the lane and the minions and kill the minions together, and sometimes Berserker gets lane advantages in life, even though he looks really out of sorts outside of the lane. In the lane, he's had some good moments. He's had, sure, everyone has errors in the lane. Like, I'm not saying Life is the best laner. He's not. But, like, he's salvageable in that aspect of his play, because Berserker is usually walking out of lane feeling like, all right, we're hitting the power spikes we're supposed to be hitting. You know, I'm going into mid lane, clearing waves. There's not a problem. It's not a disaster. The enemy AD carry is not just shoving me out of mid lane on repeat. Like, Berserker's at very low deaths. Like, he's doing fine. Berserker is also obviously the big shining light of this team, but as AD carry, you need your team to be setting up for you and setting up for objectives. Otherwise, like, you can't do it. If the skill set to be an AD carry, to be a fantastic AD carry, is not the skill set to set up for fights or to start fights or any of that stuff. So even though he's the best performing player, it's the worst. It might be the worst scenario to have that as your best player. Maybe the best scenario is to have a strong jungler or a mid laner who can get you all these big leads and big setup and big prio for objectives and know how to call through that. So that the worst player on your team, the AD carry, could still just do like shoot and, you know, sit back there and do the damage. So it's kind of unfortunate that their best player isn't the one that can solve this problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It feels like when GenG play bad, that's what Chovy does with his team. He's like, all right, well, I guess I am the damage and the setup, and you guys, you know, help me set up by using your HP bars. That's when DNF looked the best. When Berserker's doing it, unfortunately, those champions don't have the same type of skill set that are able to do that. This one has gone long, Wolf. I want to do some quick hits and some predictions, and then I think we get out of here. Let's go GenG. They had a 2-0 week, dropped a game to BFX. How do you rate it? How are they doing? Love chicken.
I think GenG, I think they're the best team right now. I think Hanwha is still kind of chasing that shadow a little bit. They're chasing their tail. But BNK, I think, actually is. You know, we didn't talk about it too much because we were all wrapped up in the Guma and then all that stuff earlier. But like, BNK looks pretty good. Like, they've improved a lot. So I think GenG losing a game to them is just a reminder that anyone can beat anyone with the right settings. And like, BNK's jungler Raptor is really, really good right now. So I'm not reading too much into that. GenG's win over Bro was also pretty clean. Bro had a good series. I thought their game 1 draft was really good, and I thought how they played it was overall pretty good as well. They were like so close to actually getting some really nice angles in that game. They didn't. So like, if you didn't see what Bro was, if you didn't like what Bro was trying to, if you didn't like their draft, you might be like, oh, they got blasted. It was super easy. It was one-sided. But like, I saw like the angles for Bro in that one. So I actually thought that was a good series for Bro. And GenG still shut them down because they're just so good. They're just so elite.
I think by the time that they got to the first like major team fight, just out of laning phase, I think they were down like 2k gold, and it's just the ability that GenG's players are able to pressure within the lanes, and you know, have optimal swaps, optimal timings, like just made it tough for Bro. And by the time they took that fight, they were down. I was proud they played the early game good. Again, that is the stable part of the game. See how they play it, and then they got blasted. But I'm like, hey, I saw the angle. The angle's there. When we're a better team, you have to take those angles. You have to not be as far down. And if you are that far down, you have to make up with it in terms of hands. But the Bros came in with a clear game plan. No, there's no real AD. Okay, yeah, let's go Bros real quick. There is no real AD carry drama here, right? Like, someone threw out. Okay, Ox was like, I think. Oh, actually, I'm not sure if it was Ox. I'm sorry, Ox. Someone said Bull looked better than Hype, and he did in that series. But I feel like keep riding the hot hand until it's time to put in Bull. and otherwise you get into this whole weird territory of swapping in and out.
Yeah, I don't want to see this team. This team's got other problems that they need to solve. I don't want to see them go into the KT like, you know, ship of Theseus or whatever problem that we're starting to build here. So,
Hanwha Life, DRX, and Nongshim both 2-0 here. How'd you feel?
Hanwha looked really good. Like it was a tough week for Nongshim. Like they had T1 and Hanwha, and I thought Nongshim Hanwha was going to be pretty interesting, especially because like Nongshim took a game off T1, right? And it was a pretty exciting series there. I was like, yeah, Nongshim's kind of got some potential here to take a game off Hanwha, especially because Hanwha's performances haven't been that consistent. This was a consistent week for Hanwha. This was a week where Hanwha looked like clearly our second best team. Whereas before there was some debate about like whether Hanwha or T1 was better. Hanwha wins, right? And then you're like, okay, well, it's looking like it's Hanwha, but you know, T1's got some drama and all that. So are we really sure? Now I feel like it's very clear. There's like the GenG tier, there's the Hanwha tier, and like there's a tier break for both of them, and then there's like everybody else. We'll see what happens when GenG and Hanwha match up against each other later, as to like how close they are. But right now, Hanwha very clear game plan. Like I feel like the inconsistency I was talking about, like it seemed gone this week. Like it seemed like they were super locked in.
500 wins for Peanut, career wins for Peanut, ahead of Deft, and only behind Faker, who's at 670. What the heck? That is so many wins here for Peanut. Because we have like wins and games played. So Showmaker just hit his, what was it? What did he hit? 300? Was that what he hit? Or something like that? I forgot what Showmaker just hit. Yeah.
It was like 600 games, I think.
Oh, I lied. He is at 600 games, 371 wins. Pioshik was at 300 games or 300 wins.
I think Pioshik had a kill milestone, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure Pioshik has had multiple milestones. He has had multiple.
I think it was like 1,000 kills milestone or something like that. I think it was 1,000 kills. Something like that. Man, I think that LCK overdoes the milestones, man. I think it's a little overdone. So like I'm like if we have like 3 milestones a day, I'm kind of like, all right, wait, what are we doing? But if I can't remember what his milestone is, I'm like, I think we're having a little bit too many milestones this week.
I think it's fine to have the milestone. I think it's just more like, you know, because it's like yards passing, career yardage, yards in a game. Like if you're talking sports, like that's fine. But we do too much fanfare for it. Prediction time. DRX KT.
KT.
DRX. Oh, you're kind of, this is KT win for you?
Wait, no, hold on. Okay. Actually, no, sorry. I think I went DRX on. I actually had to pull up my preds because I want to.
Oh, you already sent it?
Yeah, I sent it in.
Responsible boy. I did not send mine in.
No, I've actually been recently forgetting to do this stuff if I don't do it right away. So I am being very responsible. Although I'm not logged into where it is, so it's taking me a second. But I want to make. I don't want to say a pred on this stream. I got them up now. I don't want to say a pred on this stream and then like it comes up on the other stream and I said yeah. No, I definitely went DRX. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking KT. That was crazy. Thanks for keeping me honest on that one.
Yeah, man. Holy crap. We just spent a whole.
I'm wiped out, man. It was a long week. It was a long week. All right.
Yeah. Nongshim BFX.
I went BNK.
That's probably the match of the game. Did you really?
Yeah, I think I went BNK. Yeah.
All right, I'm a BNK.
Nongshim looking a little rocky. BNK strong jungle.
Calyx looks good, man. He's looked good in these losses. Just Kingen needs to get his head out of his ass. Let's go. I'm interested in how that's going to get translated. GenG versus DNF.
Okay. That's GenG, obviously, yeah. You didn't even
Hanwha versus BRO.
Hanwha.
Am I such a fake fan that I'm going 0-2 for BRO? Fuck. Okay. Am I really gonna predict? Okay. KT Nongshim. That's probably Nongshim. T1 D+.
I predicted D+.
Give me.
It's not obvious though. I don't think it's obvious. I don't think I would be like, wow, dGon, you really think T1 could do it? And I'm like, well, of course they could do it. with all the chaos and the craziness that's going on with T1 right now, versus a D plus that ended the week in a very clean note, I think for me, I have to go D plus. They looked better this last week in terms of form.
I think I'm trolling my picks. Oh my god. Okay, I'm going T1. DNF BFX.
BNK, yeah,
sorry.
Sure.
Damn, bro. When are the freaks getting their win? Yeah, I'll go BNK. DRX GenG, that's a GenG win. Okay. Here's the trolling. Bro versus T1, baby. After picking T1 against D+, give me the bros.
I went T1 because I think there's actually an argument to vote for Bro here. Like realistically, I actually think if you look at how Bro played against GenG, they have made some big improvements, whereas T1 I feel like have dropped down a little bit in terms of their performance. I look at what T1 did against Nongshim. They were able to stick it out there. I think if they can stick it out there, they can probably beat the Bros. But I would not fault anyone for predicting Bro. I'm actually gonna check and see if anybody did. No, not yet. But
no one has.
I feel like this is where Atlas preds Bro. If Atlas is gonna pred Bro, this would be where it is. When Atlas gets down on T1, he gets down on T1. I could see it.
Top lane, that's a Bro win. Jungle, I'll take Hambak on Wukong, but that means there's 2 games that Owner wins, so Owner wins. Obviously, he's the best. I think Closer is a neutralizer. I think he's like Power of Evil. He can neutralize other mid laners. That was Power of Evil's old talent. Yes, as long as he just neutralizes Faker's impact. He just needs to neutralize Faker's impact. That's all.
I feel like Closer is like the opposite of that, man, across his career. I feel like he's right now in a lot of matchups in this meta, which is like very not counterpick mid. Like it's not a counterpick meta where you're like, aha, now I beat you in the lane. But like in the past, like Closer was kind of like I get big advantages. I'm playing on all ins. I'm flipping the game in mid lane.
Please don't.
But like this. But honestly, this season so far, I can kind of feel what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Give him Aurora. Give me Wukong Aurora, and I feel like that's 2 wins, or 1 win if you put it in the same draft. And
for me, I'm like give Closer Aurora, Talia. The Closer's Talia has been super good.
Besides Aurora and Talia. That's what I'm saying. 2 games. We have 2 champions. Those are 2 games for the Bros to be able to steal. All right, that's too much Bro T1 copium. I'm sorry. D plus and Hanwha. Is this upset week? No.
I think if Hanwha didn't have the week that they had last week, I'd be more inclined to think about D plus here. But Hanwha just looked like super elite, super like the hangover is over. Like that we are playing extremely serious. They're boring good, if you know what I mean. Like in the LCK, when you get to be, there's a good, there's like fun good, like D plus, and then there's boring good, where it's like, okay, there's actually no chance. Like, this team is not gonna have any fun, and you're not gonna have any fun either. I wasn't boring good angle at the moment, so I'm gonna go Hanwha.
All right, there's our predictions. We've covered everything except talking about the show's name, which the winning, I guess, comment from last week was the Gonzales Schröder show. I like that one. That was pretty good. Thank you to all of our commenters that were leaving good comments and bad comments for giving us content. There's one of you that left some terrible comments that I just could not get to. I will destroy you next week.